Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How y'all doing out there? This is Elder Rooks. Today, we're going to go to the book of First Peter. First Peter 5 and 6. First Peter 5 and 6. The word of the Lord declares, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time." I'm going to read it again. "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time." On this afternoon, we're going to simply talk about humbling yourself. When we look at our lives and we see where we are, we know within ourselves that there's not where we want to be. A lot of us have goals, we have achievements, and a lot of us have dreams and find ourselves doing things out of God's timing. Then when our goals and our achievements and dreams don't go as planned, we get upset at the fact that we did it and it didn't work. I simply believe that the reason it didn't work is because of something called humility. When you lack humility, you lack the ability to move forward in life. Humility is a modest or low view of one's importance of humbleness. And when you have humility, you have the quality of being humble. Humble does not mean that you are small. Humility does not mean you are weak. Humility says you know who you are and what you carry. So instead of you showing off, you let yourself become humble. Over here in the text, it tells us to humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time, he'll exalt us in due season. In layman's terms, humble yourself to God and he will bring you up. A lot of times, why things we try to do and it don't work, it's because we won't let God do it. A lot of us long to be glorified. Truth be told, we long to know that we are significant and to have other people know the same thing. But that desire doesn't necessarily wrong us, because all of us have desires to be honored. In this case, we are made in God's image, and he has built into us the desire to be exalted. The Bible teaches us to quit struggling so hard to make it happen and trust God to exalt us at the right time and places as he sees fit for us. Let him be in charge of bringing us up. Philippians 2 reminds us that Jesus is God, and yet when he came to earth, he made himself nothing. Instead, he became a servant of all. Then, at the nighttime, the Father elevated Jesus to the highest position in the universe. Have any of you ever wondered why some of you are so afraid to put on humility? Why does it bother us to live in submission? Why are we afraid of becoming insignificant, of going unrecognized, of making ourselves nothing? Humility does not mean weakness or self-hatred. It means a proper appreciation of who we are in our relationship with God. It means strength under control. C.S. Lewis said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but rather thinking of yourself less." Peter reminds us that we are not humbling ourselves under human authority, including the elders in the church. We are willingly humbling ourselves under the hand of God. When the time comes, he will elevate us in this life or in the life to come. Either way, our willingness to serve, to make ourselves nothing, is not the case. Our humility in service is a declaration that our God can be trusted to give us all the recognition when it is time. In 1 Peter 5, 1 through 11, it gives us specific instructions to the elders about how to lead the flock of God willingly by their own example. A lot of us must live in humility toward each other and toward God, who opposes the proud. In humility, we cast our cares on the Father who cares for us. You see, we are to remain clear-minded, looking out for the enemy who seeks to stop us. We resist him by focusing on staying firm in our faith and trusting him to keep his promise. Jesus said that his followers should be humble. He often said, Jesus says his followers should be like little children, and little children had no statuses or importance at all in his time. He said that his followers should be servants, not only just servants, but servants of each other. He said this multiple times. In Matthew 18, 2 through 4, he said it in Matthew 19 and 4, Matthew 20, 26 through 27, Matthew 23, 11 through 12, Mark 9, 35, Mark 10 and 14 through 15, Mark 10, 42 through 44, Luke 9, 46 through 48, Luke 14 and 11, Luke 18 and 14, Luke 18 and 17. Being humble isn't an option for followers of Jesus Christ, but rather it is a requirement. We must commit ourselves to being humble. We are no better than the other person. All of us make mistakes and get things wrong more than one time, and we will continue to do so. Being humble means affirming this simple truth, that for me to be humble, I am in control of my actions and the things I say. It means recognizing in my heart before God the truth that I am no better than nobody else. What does it mean for us in the 21st century to be humble? Ooh, that's kind of hard. What does it look like to be humble in the 21st century? What does it sound like for us to be humble in the 21st century? It means we have to stop pretending that we are better than others. We should not be trying to get on in the world. We should be looking to serve in God's kingdom. We may have an idea that someone who is humble will not be noticed. I would suggest that in the 21st century, someone who is humble, someone who don't pretend to be smarter and more talented than others, will be noticed. In fact, they will stand out. I found a couple of ways to humble yourself. Number one, routinely confess your sins to God. In Luke 18, 9 through 14, all of us sin, fall short of the glory of God. Too many of us have routine practice of self-honesty and examination. Our behaviors and confessions to God is an active practice of humility. Number two, acknowledge your transparency to others. Humility before God is not complete unless there is an humility before man. A true test of our willingness to humble ourselves is to share with others the weakness and the other things we have that we confessed it to God. Wisdom. However, it dictates that we do so with others that we trust. Number three, actively submit to authority, the good and bad. 1 Peter 2 and 18, our culture does not value submission in the 21st century, but we rather value and promote individualism. How purposely and actively do you work on your submission to those who God have placed in your life? Doing so is a good way to humble yourself. Number four, accept a low place. Go read Proverbs 25, 6 through 7. If you find yourself wanting to sit at the head of the table, wanting others to recognize your contributions, or becoming offended when others are honored or chosen, then pride is present. Purpose to support others being recognized rather than you. Accept and look for the lowly place, because it is a place of humility. Be quick to forgive. Read Matthew 18:21 through 35. Forgiveness is possible, one of the greatest acts of humility we can do. To forgive is to acknowledge a wrong that one has done to us or that we have done to someone else, to further release our night of repayment or wrong. Forgiveness is denial of self. Forgiveness is insisting on our way and our justice. Number 6, cultivate a grateful heart. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, the more we develop an attitude of gratitude for the gift of salvation and life he has given us, the more true or perspective of self. A grateful heart is a humble heart. Being humble is being comfortable with who you are in God and putting others first. The picture of humility in the Bible is one of a strong person who loves others, not someone who is a wimp. Philippians 2:3 tells us, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility considers others better than yourselves. Humility also is recognizing that you need God's help. Knowing you can't truly succeed in your own strength. It is thanking God for your talents and gifts and giving him credit for your accomplishments. It is being comfortable of being who God called you to be. When you're humble, you can respond unfair treatment without becoming bitter. Godly humility means you do not feel a need for vengeance or revenge. Over in Ephesians 4:31 through 32, you can go read it. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, growling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. When you understand humility, you don't need to act like you're better than someone else. The better you know God, the less you have to prove yourself to people. I'm going to say it again. The better you know God, the less you have to prove yourself to people. When you are humble, you can respond to criticism and learn without becoming defensive, whether it is deserved or not deserved. Likewise, you can be aware of your failures without being emotional. When you're humble, you can talk with the right attitude. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is out of your mouths. Let it be helpful for building others according to the needs, that it may benefit those who listen. That's according to Ephesians 4:29. When you humble yourself, you become strong in the Lord. Remember, stay in prayer, study the word, consecrate yourself, and be a person of purpose. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God and watch God in your life.